Hi, subscription members. I'm Charles. This is Jed Hafer. Hey, good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Hey, yesterday we had a wonderful group of parents and educators, and they were very eager to hear about Defiance.
As soon as you started talking about strategies for Defiance, all the ears perked up in the room.
Right, and I've been thinking maybe I talk about Defiance too much, but I think it probably not.
Probably not, because it sure happens a lot, and it's one of those frustrating things that we just don't know what to do.
And the problem is that when kids get defiant, they don't pick times that are convenient for us. They usually do it when they're tired and when we're tired, and it's hurtful. I mean, our emotions get in the way. And so that's why we say delay the consequence.
Yeah, you don't know what to do, or you're too upset to do the thing that you should do. Great time to delay the consequence.
Yeah.
And we want to do it in as loving a way as we can, but this is where it's the classic love and logic strategy of being loving and firm at the same time.
Yesterday I taught people to say to the kid, no problem. So when I talk about defiance in that context, it's, I'm not doing it. You can't make me. Or the kid's like,
refusing.
This is what really upsets me. I've had my kids say, I've asked them to do something, and a couple times they said, really? Oh, and it's that combination of the eye rolling and the little head wag, and it's enough to put me over the edge. And what are they doing? They're testing limits, and they're seeing how strong we are. Do I have a good leader? And we want to prove to them that we're good leaders, and great leaders, they take some time to make the important decisions.
Yeah, they're not super reactive in the moment, because in many cases that's what somebody's going for.
Yeah, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK could have pushed the red button, and that would have been, maybe he even fantasized about it.
But
I
he
don't
needed
know.
to stay calm and
Yeah.
still send a strong message.
Right, exactly, and so you had to
So
take
I
some
like
time.
that one.
Yeah.
Just no problem.
No problem.
And we know that implies no problem for me.
Yeah, we're talking to ourselves when we say that. No problem. Or sometimes, what do you say?
I like this one. I'll say, not sure that was your best thinking.
Not sure. Or how about this? Oh no. We're going to have to do something. I'm going to have to do something about this later. I often suggest to parents not to say anything, because sometimes just the act of responding in any way kind of rewards the behavior.
Or pour some gasoline on that fire.
Pour some gasoline on the fire. And now that's difficult to do, though.
Oh, it takes so much self-control.
Oh.
And you feel in the short term like you're losing. You feel like a wimp in the short term, because
Right.
you didn't crush that rebellion.
But what the kid wants, and the kid wants two things that are conflicting. Let's say the dark side of the kid wants us to get really angry so that they can see us go down a ball of flames. But then
Some real inappropriate power on their part there.
exactly. But really, in their hearts, they want the light side of the kid. The kid really wants to see us handle it well. Really down deep
down, they
emotionally,
need us to handle it well.
They need us to handle it well so that they can say to themselves, whew, my parents are strong enough to raise me, or my teacher can handle this sorts of situations.
Yeah, I'm safe. This adult's got it. I'm safe.
Okay, so we're going to delay the consequence. Now, some people, I had a lady yesterday ask her a great question. She said, my 12-year-old's doing this, and the 4-year-old's watching, and if I delay the consequence, will the 4-year-old think that it's okay to be defiant? And I said, well, probably. Because I said it could be. And most kids will experiment with being defiant.
Sure they
And I
will.
said, wouldn't it be great if your 4-year-old experimented with being defiant right away and realized it didn't work and kind of got it out of his system when he was 4?
Learn that lesson early.
And she was like, that makes sense. It's not me worrying about whether he'll do it. It's me knowing that he probably will, but I'm equipped to handle it.
Well, and isn't it true that people who are strong don't spend as much time worrying about looking weak?
Exactly.
If I'm really strong, I don't spend quite. I see this with teachers a lot.
Right,
The
yeah.
strongest teachers aren't as worried about, is the rest of the class thinking I'm a wimp because this kid talked back to me and didn't get crushed there in the moment.
Yeah, and I could tell this lady was she was sharp, and we have great people come to these events. I mean,
sure
it's
do.
so fun. And she, like I said, she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm good with this, right?
So in the short term, I'm willing to look weak.
Yeah, I'm willing to look weak, and this does look a little weak until the kids start to learn. And now, I mean, this is something that we've experienced in the Fay household because we have strong-willed kids. And I have to say, now when they hear us say, oh, you know, it's their eyes kind of light up a little bit because they know we might be acting a little weak, but we really aren't. They've learned from
they get
experience.
conditioned pretty quickly. They hear phrases that have been predictive in the past, like, we'll take care of that, I'll take care of that, we're going to have to talk about this later. And my favorite one to plant a seed, when I really want to make sure the kid is worrying about this delayed consequence, my favorite one is try not to worry about it. I only say that when I feel like a kid's not worried enough.
Right, yeah.
If they already look like what's going to happen and they're concerned, I don't feel like I need to plant that seed.
We don't want that. But yeah, if you have a kid who just needs their stimulation level raised a little bit.
They're crossing around, so I don't care. That's a good candidate for a try not to worry about it.
And so can this also be done when the kid just says mean things? Like, well, you know, I hate you. Or, you know, I wish that you were, I bet foster kids, I'd be better off in a group home than this place, or whatever. And it's hurtful. Can we pretty much handle it in the same way?
Exact same way. And in those moments, I have a little phrase I like to tell myself. When kids are saying nasty things, I'll try to pick something that I tell myself over and over in my head. And as a foster parent, I would often use this when I'd say, it's not about me.
Not about me.
I'd say that over and over again. This is about the pain and the hurt that this kid is going through, and that's where that nastiness is coming out. In other situations where it's not, you know, maybe that severe, I'll say things like anger and frustration feed misbehavior.
Oh yeah,
that's a good love and logic ism that you can say to yourself over and over again. Anger and frustration feed misbehavior.
Anger and frustration feed misbehavior. So we're going to follow up though, and see, this lady came and asked me this question during the break before I had an opportunity to tell the rest of the story where we get back, because there is going to be accountability. The kid is going to experience consequence or so.
They're not
or
getting
results.
away with it.
They're not going to get away with it. They are not, because that's not good for them, and it's not good for us, and it's not good for society either. So what are some things that we can do as reasonable consequences, effective consequences, when a kid has been defiant or...
Well, we go get with our smart friends, you know. That's why I'm friends with Charles. We go get with your smart friends and say, here's what happened, and here's some ideas. And we really like to look for restitution. And this one's hard because the kid was been mean to somebody. It's not like they broke a window and that window costs $100, and we can say,
right,
how are you going to come up with that $120? But a lot of times the restitution is something for the offended person.
Right.
Now, I'll be honest, I'm good at this one when it's a sibling. You know, talk nasty to your brother. Oh, that wasn't very nice. Well, what do you think you ought to do? And this is a delayed conversation, right? It's happening later.
Right.
And of course you go, oh no, well, some kids decide to do something nice for that brother that they were mean to, and we start throwing out those ideas for restitution. I struggle with this one when it's for me. How are you going to put my energy back, or how are you going to make that up to me? I struggle with that.
Yeah, and I don't.
See, that's why you help me.
You know, I struggle with maybe overdoing it a bit because and that's, we all have, you know, different personalities, and certain things are harder for us than others. But the kid really does need to replace our energy, and so we use the energy drain technique. What are you going to do to put energy back in us? And I love energy drain because it's so universal. The kid, maybe they get really defiant about putting the energy back in. And so I wait until there's a time when they're going to need.
They want or need something.
Yeah.
And that's usually what, Charles, like 5-10 years down the road before kids want or need something from us?
And they want to go to practice, or they want to go, they used to want to go to the mall. I don't know if that's the case so much anymore.
They want to go somewhere.
They want to go somewhere, or they want us to do something, or they need us to do something for them. And this is the delivery. Oh, man. I love you so much. And the other day you told me that I was, I just don't feel good about doing that. I just, and then you didn't put my energy back in me. So the answer is, no, well, you're not. Yeah, and what did I say?
But now you're going into argument neutralizing mode because you know what's coming.
So I hope, and I don't know because I'm not on the other side of the camera and I'm not you watching this, but I really tried to come across as being empathetic.
Sad for you?
Sad for the kid. I tried really hard not to come across like this. Well, the other day, when I asked you to do something for me, you didn't do something for me, so I'm not going to do something for you.
Vengeful, nasty, vindictive. We don't want to sound like that at all. And that's one of the reasons we delayed, so that we don't have that emotion all boiling over there.
Right, and we don't want to be this tit for tat thing. It's like, when you did this, I'm going to do this. And that's the danger of the energy drain. It's
to sound like revenge or seem like revenge. We don't want it to be.
These techniques falling into the wrong hands, the good news is they backfire for people that are really sarcastic. So usually sarcastic people give up on them pretty quick.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't work.
I like that. I'm glad that they don't find very much success with these things. So that's one option. What are some other ways that kids can put energy back in you, Jed?
Well, contributions. I almost said chores. And I contributions that are not their normal contributions. That has to stay intact. This is above and beyond chores, work, nice things you can do that benefit the community, that be it the school, the classroom, the family, our core, especially if the offense, let's suppose a kid screamed and ranted and raved at dinner and stormed out, kind of ruined dinner. Well, I love if we can steer toward restitution that somehow maybe this kid gets to help create a really nice dinner for that family. Yeah. Something restorative that it will connect in that cause and effect way for the kid.
Right. And so let's say, though, that we're really having a hard time coming up with some extra chores or something else that the kid can do. And that happens sometimes. And would it be a stretch? I know it's not really that tightly connected with the infraction, but if the kid is disrespectful at dinner, would it be okay if they went and did something nice in the community, like clean up a park or something?
Yeah,
like
I think I'd say it this way. Well, that disturbed the peace,
Oh,
and sometimes a lot of offenses can go in that category of disturbing the peace.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what happens when we disturb the peace? You can kind of get fined or get assigned community service.
Sure,
and it's all in the how. I really believe
the delivery.
In this part, it's how we deliver this. Because we want to create this feeling that you, kid, caused a problem. Here is your opportunity to make it right.
Right.
And we know kids feel good when they solve problems, fix problems, make it right.
Right. We really want to emphasize that. The reason we like the energy drain is that it helps a kid develop better self-esteem.
It's not out to make them feel bad.
It is not, and sometimes people get tricked because the kid actually likes to do it, and then they think it's not effective. It can still be effective. So, one thing I've done in the past is I've said, when you call me names or this or that, it drains my energy. But when I see you doing things that are good for humanity, that puts energy back in me.
Charges me up.
And honestly, it does. So I figure if it's a real feeling that I'm having and I'm not lying to the kid, I think we can go with that.
I like it.
I think we can go with that. And by the way, do you have to call up Parks and Rec to get permission to clean up the park, or do you think you could just show up and do it?
I am told that you can just do good deeds. It's still legal at this moment. At the time of this recording, it's still legal.
At the time of this recording,
just go out and do good deeds without it being a big deal.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. So, yeah. And is it okay even to help the kid a little bit?
I think it is, because there's the relationship aspect of it. As long as that is not causing a fight or a power struggle, or as long as we're not lecturing them as we're out there picking up with them. But if it's a good experience and we maybe go with our kid and participate in that community service a little bit, I've seen that be a great little bonding thing.
Now, what happens when we do these things and we do them well, but we still have a kid who is getting aggressive, angry all the time, getting defiant? What does that tell you, Jed? And I'm suggesting that we have a parent, and they have done a really good job of this. They're a good parent, but this kid is continuing to be defiant and really on edge all the time. Tell me, what goes through your mind when I ask that question?
Two things. First, I want to keep doing these good things. I don't want to
Yeah,
stop doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, then I really want to zero in on, are there some other underlying things that we're not seeing, or that maybe we're not addressing? And we've talked about this a lot, where there might be some underlying physical health issue, mental health issue, pain or hurt or trauma or something bad going on in the kid's life that we either aren't aware of or aren't addressing. But the short answer there is, yes, keep doing these things, but also I start looking for some underlying stuff.
And sometimes we need to consider professional help, and sometimes, which I've had to do with my son, is just sit down with him and talk to myself around him. Because if I try to get him to participate, my kid, he often clams up. But if I can just ponder some things, and so I've noticed that there seems to be a trend, and that you have been real irritable with me, and I'm wondering what might be behind that. Because do you think that I really just want to provide consequences all the time, or do I also want to help you feel good? And I'm wondering if there are some things that are getting in the way of you just really feeling good. And I've had a variety of responses, but a lot of it is just the act of wanting to understand, which it can go a long ways. But I've had things like, well, when you do such and such, it embarrasses me. And they were things that were legitimate. I didn't mean to, but I realized I needed to correct my own behavior a little bit, and that helped. And I'm willing to do that. There's other times where, the reason it's just like, you're never fair, and I never get to do anything fun. And then I'm thinking, this kid is on a baseball team.
Not true.
Not true.
Not legit.
Then I don't get into a debate over that, but I just say, well, I hear that you feel like you never get to do it. That must be a hard feeling to have. And then I exit stage right. I get away from the kid as quick as I can. Notice I don't try to debate with them.
No, we don't want it to turn into a power struggle right there. That defeats the purpose.
I think that we understand that he's trying to yank the chain, right? But I guess what I'm trying to get across to the subscribers here is that Love and Logic tries to keep things simple. We try to make it so that we don't have to operate like counselors or psychologists all the time.
Right.
But we do want to acknowledge that sometimes there are underlying things that are going on that really need to be addressed, right?
And that's not a bad idea to get some other adult, responsible, caring eyes on this situation.
Right.
That tends to be a pretty good idea a lot of times.
So is there hope for a really defiant kid, Jed?
Oh,
we'll
absolutely.
kind of finish up with that, yeah.
Absolutely, and I've seen it be a mix of things in terms of the approach where we see really big turnarounds for these kids. It's small things a lot of times that the parent or the authority figure will do. I know one dad that all he did, he was doing all this stuff, but the big adjustment he made, which was really a small adjustment, is he started giving the kid more time for transitions. So he used to
Oh,
say,
okay.
go do this chore right now. Tell me, this kind of sounds like a love and logic idea a little bit. Instead of saying, go do this chore right now, he'd say, hey, can you have it done by this time or this time? And that kid having that little bit of time just cut out so much of that initial resistance in the reaction. And then the same thing with turning off the TV or the video games, which again, I'm all for kids turning off TVs and video games,
Right.
but this dad was saying do it now, and it was always turning into a big fight. So he was just giving the kid, hey, do you need 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes? And he'd say that, of course, 10 minutes before he wanted the thing off.
Right, right.
And those little adjustments of not creating so many opportunities for the big defiant resistant behavior.
Yeah, I think about my son Cody, and we were going through some defiance, and the adjustment I made that was just had a huge impact was that I started respecting more his ability to solve problems.
Figure it out for himself.
You know, honestly, what I was doing was I was being kind of a micromanager, and you know, the first step is admitting you have a problem. But I was micromanaging him because he, you know, he used to kind of need it because he was younger. And then he had this big growth spurt in terms of his ability to handle things, but I didn't adjust. And when I started adjusting and just saying, oh, what do you think? I'm sure you'll work this out or whatever. Wow.
Fewer fights.
Fewer fights. Yeah.
Love to
Hope
hear
this
that.
was helpful to you. Thank you, Jed.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. We always appreciate you guys tuning in.
Send in your questions.